gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. Our first special guest of the day. He is the co-host of ESPN Radio's signature show Unsportsmanlike with his co-hosts Chris Canty and Michelle Smallman, as well as you may have heard him all over Sirius XM on the Mad Dog Sports Network a couple years ago on NBA Radio. Evan Cohen joins the broadcast. Sir, how are you?
Did I just get the John Cena intro? Is that what just happened?
Did.
Is that the John Cena music?
Yes, we're pumped up here, man. It's Night of Champions weekend, so we're really into WWE on this show. Are you a wrestling fan?
Oh yeah. So I have an 11-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter, and my 11-year-old son is an obsessive wrestling fan. So it's gotten me back into it. We've gone to multiple events, and my kids go to summer camp, sleepaway camp, and so. Literally, one of the things, we don't get to talk to them for like a couple of weeks, but there's an app that you can like write letters to them, and they just like the camp gives the kids the letters. Mm-hmm. And so every Tuesday morning, very early, I have to put into this app the raw results from the night before, make sure he is up to date on everything.
Oh, that's
and like
awesome.
In my letters, I'm literally writing yeet all the time. Do you believe in Joe Hendry? I'm all over the place with this. I'm
awesome.
I'm in on wrestling.
You know what? So are we. We talk about it on the show, and actually, we have quite a few listeners that are wrestling fans around here in Bakersfield. So it's something that we've kind of just kept going with, and I'm glad that you're a wrestling fan. Do you have a favorite right now at all? Did you grow up with it?
Oh, yeah, no, I grew up with the big time. I was obsessed growing up. I mean, I was in the Attitude Era, obviously, so DX, NWO. I would always have debates as to what was better, the intro music, the regular NWO intro or the Wolfpack intro. DX obviously was phenomenal. I loved Macho Man growing up more than Hogan or Warrior. I then became a huge Shawn Michaels guy. And now I would say just from an intro perspective, Jey Uso, I think that intro is unbelievable. I don't know that he's good on the mic or good in the ring, but the intro is so good that it's awesome. And I've been watching Stephanie's Places on ESPN Plus with all the behind-the-scenes stuff. Cody Rhodes comes off as maybe the greatest guy ever.
Right.
So, no, I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's talk wrestling. We can talk wrestling instead of NBA. I'm good on that.
Well, we got plenty to talk to you about real quick. But
what do you guys think about – wait a minute. Now, let me ask you. I'm going to flip this. I'm going to do the interview. Here we go. What do you think about Goldberg being back and getting a title shot potentially? Do you like that or no?
Oh, no.
It's been a mixed review on this show. We have a guy who comes on every Tuesday to talk about it, and him and Sparky are both not very crazy about it. I grew up liking Goldberg. I'm a big, I love Braun Breaker just because he's essentially Goldberg when he was younger.
Right.
But, I mean, I have no issue with it. All these guys get retirement matches, right? So why not let Goldberg get one?
All right. Do we like John Cena as a heel?
Yes. I love this.
I
think this is what we've been waiting for.
I just hope it ends well because, as we had Tiffy on a couple weeks ago, and as she called me the vintage fan, I grew up in the 80s, so I'm a big, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Undertaker fan when he first came out.
He took a shot when you said Ultimate Warrior. I'm not going to lie. He's got a tattoo of him on his arm right now.
It's all right. As I grew up, I started to realize that he wasn't as good of a wrestler as I thought when I was 5 years old, running around my parents' house and beating up everything and shaking my hands like I was the Ultimate Warrior. But I do like the stories that Triple H is doing with the nostalgia with these older wrestlers, and we kind of saw how the crowd reacted when they brought out Hogan a couple months ago, and I know I've followed Goldberg over the years. I wasn't a big WCW fan growing up, so I'm not a big of a Goldberg fan. But I know he's been worried if he's gonna get some boos when he comes out.
Well, do you guys think that the Cena angle ultimately ends with maybe Cena, Cody goes heel, Cena walks out as a face, and then that's kind of how it ends?
That's exactly what we've been saying, because on this show we call him Cody Lander. I don't know if you're a Boys fan or The Boys on Amazon, but I think that's exactly what we're going to get, is just this better than everybody kind of persona from Cody at the end of all of this once he finally just takes that belt off of him, or The Rock takes it off of him and we get another Rock versus Cody match.
Or he finally sells his soul.
Yeah, at some point. But I don't know. Wrestling can go anywhere. That's the beauty of it, right? I mean, that's where these storylines kind of get fun.
I'm looking forward to this show. A lot of people don't like this, the traditional wrestling fans, that the show they're going to do on Netflix where they're going to reveal all the behind-the-scenes stuff of the writing. I can't wait for that.
Same. I am a big nerd when it comes to that. I want to know how all of this works and how the stories get written and stuff like that. That was one of my main questions I wanted to ask you after you said you're a DX fan. How do you feel about knowing now that, I mean, you grew up with DX, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels obviously being who they were and the, rage against the bosses kind of mentality, and now they run the whole thing. How do you feel about that?
I actually think it's great because I think that Triple H clearly has shown an appreciation, and Shawn Michaels has shown an appreciation for this unbelievable, iconic sports entertainment brand.
Right.
And they've evolved it in a way that is so mainstream now, it's unbelievable. Like, we normally do things on Friday. We didn't do it today, but we normally do things on Fridays on our show on Unsportsmanlike, 3A to 7A, as you mentioned, here in Bakersfield, that we have Michelle Smallman, who was not a wrestling fan growing up, reviewing random wrestling matches and talking about it on the air because it's her intro to wrestling. Now, think about it. We're on ESPN Radio in Bakersfield. We're on ESPN Radio all across the country, on ESPN TV and ESPNU. Like, that is as mainstream as you can get, and I think we're at a point now where if you're not somehow, some way incorporating the biggest stories in wrestling into your shows on a national level, McAfee obviously the king of it, I think you're kind of not doing your job, and I think that's all as a result of Triple H and Shawn Michaels. I think they have done it in a way that has embraced the average everyday fan. And yeah, sure, they were against the bosses, rage against the machine kind of thing. Now they are the machine, and I think it's actually made it better.
I agree. And honestly, I think it's their love for the industry as a whole that kind of drives that. So I think you're onto something there. But again,
they're also not lying. They're also not pretending.
Yes.
Like it's real in that it's real athletes, it's real athleticism, it's real fun storylines, but it's scripted. Right? So you mentioned my time. I was 12 years before coming to ESPN on Mad Dog Sports Radio on Sirius. And I was lucky enough to be a part of a wrestling match once, and the behind the scenes and watching the wrestlers and creators kind of play it out was unbelievable to witness. So it was like an indie event, but nonetheless, like, I think that Triple H and Shawn Michaels, what they've done is like, hey, the audience is not dumb. We can let them in on the idea because they know already that this is, scripted television. You don't have to go quote-unquote kayfabe in that, but like, come on, give me a break. It's still fun, and they've made it even more fun.
Right, and you just don't insult the viewer. That's the main goal of it all. So just as long as you can accept the fact that they know this is scripted entertainment, but they're here because it's entertainment. So I don't know. That's why we love it on the show.
Exactly right.
I get up, 3:30, 4 in the morning every day to prep for the show. So I've been a big fan of Unsportsmanlike. So I know one of the things you guys have been doing with Michelle is getting her to watch some of these old sports movies. So it's been cool to collect, going back, and I'm talking to my wife too. It's like, you didn't see this, you didn't see that. But one of the things I was going to bring up, we're actually about to move into our new studio. So how's the new digs?
Yeah, they've been great. It's such an unbelievable building that Disney and ESPN has put together, and it's like, we were at this place called the Seaport prior. And at that location, there were 3 shows at that location. It was Get Up with Greeny, First Take with Stephen A. and Molly, and then us. And now we're in this unbelievable new building, and it's Good Morning America. It's Mark and Kelly. It's ABC News in New York, ABC News in it's just unreal, the level of security, but also, like, it's just a coolness factor of, yes, being in a brand new studio that is there for us, much more space. It's a different world. This was literally, I'm driving home right now from our first week there. So I'm still trying to get used to where to park, where I can avoid paying for parking, which is always a big thing in New York. So, no, it's been great. It's been great.
And you need all that space with Chris Canty sitting next to you. Dang.
He's not small. He's 6'8", 330, and he looks every bit. He's not fat. He's just an enormous man.
No, absolutely. I've always thought that, even when he was playing football. So it's like I cannot imagine having to sit next to that every day and look up. It's like, okay, hi. But let's talk a little basketball with you real quick. We played your spot yesterday, or your clip, about you bringing up how Giannis could be headed towards Atlanta. What brought you to that conclusion? We on this show, at least pre-draft, thought for sure he was headed for San Antonio. I thought at some point Milwaukee was going to make some sort of move to get that number 2 pick, or 14 if they had to go low. But what makes you think that Atlanta now is the front runner?
Right. So, okay, let me try to do this step by step. So, first of all, I want to just be 100% clear. I do not think that Giannis is going to leave Milwaukee. I do not think he's going to play on another team this year. I think he is going to be on Milwaukee now, and I think he's going to be on Milwaukee later. Period. Next sentence. I'm in the minority on that. There are a lot of people that believe otherwise. So in speaking about his future to those people that believe otherwise, I think that going into the draft, there were probably 3 to 4 teams, and we could play this out. So if I told you before the draft, let's come up together, the 3 of us, with a list of teams that we think Giannis could go to if he were traded. Let's do this. So San Antonio, you mentioned. Who else you want to put on that list?
Miami was one we threw out there. Before the trade for Kevin Durant, we were saying the Rockets, but now since they made that trade, I highly doubt that will happen.
They still could be in the mix.
You think they could still be in the mix for Kevin Durant?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, for Giannis?
Sure. So San Antonio, Miami, Houston. Anybody else you want to put on that list?
That's really the short list. We were kind of dancing with the idea that maybe Chicago makes a move, but I'm not sure cap salary-wise if that would work out. But I guess if you need a 4th, we'll throw Chicago in there.
Okay. So at no point did you guys or I or anyone else ever put Atlanta on the mix.
Right.
In the mix. And I don't think we should have. But they did something on Wednesday night that, to me, makes them an interesting team to keep an eye on. They made a trade with New Orleans, which New Orleans made one of the worst trades I've ever seen a team make, move up 10 spots in the draft, and give up an unprotected first-round pick next year. Now, that unprotected first-round pick next year is whichever pick is the higher pick, closer to 1, between New Orleans and Milwaukee. So play something out. If Milwaukee were to trade Giannis to any of those teams that you just mentioned, and Milwaukee were to get significantly worse as a result, they don't get the payoff to be bad, which is their own pick.
Right.
But if you trade him to Atlanta and you get last year's number 1 overall pick, Zachary Ricochet, you get Jalen Johnson, who's on a 5-year, $150 million contract, a forward who's very good, and you maybe get a couple of other pieces, what you also get is your own pick back, or that pick of New Orleans, and they're not going to be very good, we don't think. So I added Atlanta to the list only because it allowed Milwaukee to get their pick back, and Atlanta had good players. And you also have to find a team that, after you trade for Giannis, has enough left to be good. Well, if I present you a team hypothetically that has Trae Young, Giannis, Kristaps Porzingis, and Dyson Daniels, who was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate this year, that seems pretty good, is it not?
No, that's a very good point. That's honestly, I see your reasoning now, too, because that would make a lot of sense for Atlanta, at least strategically, to try to get some draft capital.
Correct. So I don't believe Giannis is going to get traded. I just believe a front runner could be, if he were, the team that controls the Bucks draft pick for next year.
God, and you know what? That's a really good point, too. And the team up of him and Trae Young is very interesting to me. I think Giannis is somebody that's at least humble enough that he could play with dang near anybody on the court, and we have yet to see if there's a star that could actually play with Trae Young and they can mesh together, so that might not be the worst tandem in the NBA to actually try out.
Yeah, and Porzingis makes sense next to Giannis simply because he wants to play away from the basket at times.
Right.
And obviously Giannis wants to play near the basket.
Absolutely. And honestly, I was just thinking San Antonio because the ability for Giannis to step in and really just teach someone like Victor Wembanyama, who essentially is coming in with the same body build, but with way more, I guess, I can't remember the word I'm looking for here, but like just the ability to...
His skill set is Wemby's skill set.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. I don't know why I dropped the word.
It's significantly better than that of Giannis's upon arrival into the league Giannis' physicality at this point and his ability to get to the rim is obviously better than that of Wemby's at this point comparatively.
Right. And one last question before we let you go. We have to talk about this Ace Bailey thing. I heard you guys talk about it this morning. I know you're in the corner of, if I'm Utah, I'm thinking this guy hits the under because he doesn't want to be here. I am a Cleveland Cavalier fan, or at least I grew up that way, and the whole Evan Mobley situation is what reminded me of what was going on with Ace Bailey, with Evan saying no to Cleveland and Cleveland saying, well, we're taking you anyway. So do you not kind of believe that the same thing can happen here with Utah and they can kind of turn Ace around and make him love the city of Utah? Or the state of Utah,
Cleveland, or you're a Cleveland?
No.
I'm just living in Bakersfield.
I'm a Cleveland. I'm a weird fandom here. Trust me. I grew up loving.
Oh, trust me, I'm weirder. I promise you. Miami Heat, New York Mets, and New England Patriots. You can't get weirder than me.
You know. Well, I'll try to one up you here.
I'm over here. I'm a Dolphins fan in California. So.
Well, you're talking to a Phillies fan, a Cavalier fan, and a Falcons fan. So. It doesn't get much more weird than us.
Cavaliers, and what was the other one you said? I cut out for a second. I'm sorry.
Atlanta Falcons.
Phillies, Cavaliers, and Atlanta Falcons.
If you put it together, my favorite color was red when I was a kid, and I kind of just ran with it, and I just fell in love with the teams growing up. I mean, I grew up during the LeBron era, so it's easy to love the Cavaliers during that. Falcons, I had Michael Vick and Matt Ryan, and Phillies, I had Ryan Howard and the championship hopeful championship with Bryce Harper. So we're kind of moving towards that.
Okay.
Again,
all right,
see, that's what I'm saying.
So the Ace Bailey thing is this for me. So I don't believe Ace Bailey's camp, and Ace Bailey, the forward out of Rutgers, who's now with the Jazz, 5th pick in the draft the other night, I don't believe they made enough of a mess going into the draft. And I don't like to encourage people to make a mess. I have 2 young kids, as I mentioned, right? When they throw a tantrum, that's not fun for my wife and I as parents, right? But sometimes when the kids throw a tantrum, you give in because you don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't believe that Ace Bailey really threw a tantrum. If he wanted to be on a certain team or didn't want to be on another team, I can't believe I'm saying this, he should have thrown a tantrum. He didn't. So if Utah happens to be a team he doesn't want to go to, which he has not said that, he just hasn't shown up there, he should have thrown more of a tantrum to guarantee and ensure that he would end up in the team he wants to go to. Now, that doesn't mean that Danny Ainge, the general manager or the president of Utah, would have given in. It means there probably would have been a better chance of him giving in and not drafting him or someone else trading up to get him. So now Ace Bailey's in a spot where I think basketball-wise, it's a good spot for him. I don't know if he wants to be there, and we're going to find out by Monday. I can tell you guys this. Right now it's a story. If he doesn't show up on Monday when they're all supposed to be there, it's a huge story because you have a top 5 pick in the draft who just doesn't show up to the team that drafted him. That becomes a monster story in sports on Monday.
What do you think the over-under is if he does or doesn't? Like 60-40, 70-30?
I'll say 70-30 he does, maybe even 80-20, only because of this. What's the alternative?
Right.
Right, so if he doesn't, it's just so people understand, it's not like, oh, he can just go back to college. Like, that's not how, well, he can go back to college. He can't go back to college basketball, right? And he can't, like, just re-enter the draft. It doesn't work that way. They have his rights.
So,
because that's the thing that people have to understand. When you enter the draft in any of these sports, you in essence are working for the league more than the team.
Right.
Right? You enter the NFL draft, you're working for 32 teams at that point. Any of them can draft you. If you enter the NBA draft, you're working for 30 teams, and because you have a guaranteed contract, you are guaranteed to be paid by an NBA team during the course of the contract. You are not guaranteed to be paid by one specific team.
It makes sense.
That's interesting. Okay.
Well, before we wrap it up, we'll finish how we started. Who's your prediction of the king and queen of the ring tomorrow?
Okay, I'm not, because my son's away at camp. I'm not as in on that, so you guys are going to have to help me.
Well, Cody.
I'm trying to think, who are they going to make a push for? You think it's going to be Goldberg tomorrow, or is he not in it?
No, Goldberg's not in it tomorrow. That'd be next week.
Saturday night's main event. So tomorrow, the King of the Ring finals is Cody versus Orton, and the Queen is
Asuka and Jade Cargill. if I'm not mistaken.
Jade Cargill, I go with Jade Cargill. Cody versus Orton is interesting. So if I'm picking Orton, then I got to be picking them to make Orton on a big push. But what are they pushing him for? A rematch in SummerSlam? What am I making a Randy Orton push for?
That's essentially what this would be, is whoever wins this is getting a push towards SummerSlam. And that's why I'm not sure if we're going to get Cody that early. I think they're going to wait for a little bit before they
line
put
up
that in
with Cena, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
then I guess I'll go Orton, and then they save Cody, the next big push for Cody for Cena on the way out.
Well, there you go. That's a good prediction in my book. Thank you so much for your time, sir, and we'll hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
We'll take a break real quick, pay some bills. You're listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield.